Vacations in my family always followed the same painful script. My mom would claim there wasn't enough room, then somehow managed to squeeze my sister's family of 6 into the car while I was told to stay behind. I tried to laugh it off for years, but deep down, the rejection burned. This time, however, I uncovered the real reason, and it changed everything. I'm Miranda, and there was a time when my sister's smirk, dripping with condescension, told me my kids and I didn't belong. Maybe if you had a real job, she'd sneer, you could afford your own vacation. But what they didn't know was that their cruel words weren't tearing me down. They were fueling a fire that would eventually build an empire, one they'd be begging to enter. For 15 agonizing years, my mother, Catherine, orchestrated these grand family beach house vacations. 2 glorious weeks every summer, a tradition she cherished, a legacy for her connected family. And for 15 agonizing years, my beautiful children, Lily and Owen, and I were systematically excluded. Not enough room, she'd always claim, her voice flat, while somehow, magically, my sister Pamela's sprawling family of 6 always fit perfectly. 6 people, in a house that supposedly couldn't accommodate 3 more. Can you believe it? My burgeoning real estate investment career? Invisible. My hard-won successes? Dismissed. Miranda just sells houses. That was their favorite line. Pamela, my older sister, always the golden child, once actually looked me dead in the eye and said, maybe if you had a real job, you could afford your own vacation. I never argued back. I just swallowed the sting, went home, and worked harder. Much, much harder. But let me tell you, everything changed last month. Everything. I did something that left my entire family, the same ones who'd cast us aside for so long, utterly speechless. And trust me, you're going to want to hear exactly what I said when my sister called me, her voice trembling, practically in tears, because she was the one being left out. You know how family dynamics can be, right? But ours felt less like dynamics and more like a twisted, long-running soap opera, meticulously scripted for maximum drama. My mother, Catherine, now 62, never had to explicitly state her preferences. They were just obvious. From the smallest childhood birthday parties to the biggest life decisions like college, Pamela, my sister, always got the lion's share. The attention, the gushing praise, the unwavering support. Me? I was just expected to figure things out. To be the responsible one. The self-sufficient one. The one who didn't need anything. Pamela, 38, married Thomas, a successful orthopedic surgeon, right out of college. They have 4 beautiful kids, Emily, 14, Jacob, 12, Zoe, 10, and little Tyler, 7. Their life looks like it's ripped straight from a glossy magazine. A 5-bedroom mansion in an exclusive neighborhood, complete with a sparkling pool and a home theater. Their Christmas cards were always so perfect, so impossibly picturesque, it almost made me sick. The whole beach house tradition started 16 years ago, after my father passed away from a sudden heart attack. My mother said it was to keep the family connected. The first year, I was invited. Even my then-husband, Richard, came along. But then, my own life imploded. My marriage fell apart 12 years ago. Lily was just a toddler, and I was pregnant with Owen. Richard, being the stand-up guy he was, moved halfway across the country with his new girlfriend and barely sent child support. And that's when the invitations started to fade. First sporadic. Then gone entirely. We need to prioritize the children, my mother would say, as if my 2 beautiful babies weren't also children. It was a knife twist every single time. Meanwhile, I was clawing my way back from rock bottom. Rebuilding my life from scratch. I started as a real estate agent, working grueling nights and weekends, juggling childcare with calls and showings. Every class on property investment, every penny I saved, every ounce of energy I poured into building my portfolio. One small property, then another, then another. But to my family, I was still just Miranda who sells houses. Nothing more, nothing less. 3 summers ago, that familiar June phone call came. My mother. Miranda, darling, she began, her voice sweet, saccharine, laced with that fake apology I'd learned to dread. I've been thinking about the beach house arrangements. My heart sank. Yes, Ma, I replied, the dread a heavy weight in my stomach. I knew what was coming. Well, with Pamela's family, there's just not enough room this year. Thomas's parents will be joining for the first week, and you know how the children need their space. I took a deep, shaky breath. I started to plead, to offer solutions. What if the kids shared rooms? Lily could stay with Emily and Zoe. Owen with Jacob and Tyler. I could take the sofa in the den. The pause on the other end felt endless. Oh, honey, that wouldn't work, she finally chirped. Emily is a teenager now, she needs her privacy. And the boys are at such different ages. And then, the kicker. Besides, the den is where Thomas's father likes to watch his sports programs. I just said, I understand. But I didn't. Not really. That house had 5 bedrooms and a converted attic. There was room. There just wasn't room for us. The absolute hardest part was always telling my children. Lily, who was 7 that summer, had made a seashell collection box at school, meticulously labeled Beach Treasures. Owen, only 5, had been practicing holding his breath in the bathtub, convinced he'd be swimming like a fish in the ocean. Maybe next year, I tell them, forcing a smile that felt like a painful grimace. We'll have our own special summer right here. And we did try. God, we tried. I enrolled them in every day camp I could afford while I worked. We visited every public swimming pool within 30 miles. On weekends, I'd take them on day trips to lakes or amusement parks. I worked extra hours, clawing for every penny to afford special treats, trying to create memories that could somehow compete with the idyllic beach vacations their cousins would describe in vivid, heartbreaking detail at holiday gatherings. Did you ride the waves this year, Lily? My daughter would ask her cousin Emily, her voice full of an innocent longing. Every day, Emily would reply, without a hint of malice. Grandma bought us all boogie boards. Mine was pink. Each summer, I watched their little faces fall, their hopes dashed yet again. Each summer, I promised myself, next year will be different. But it never was. Then came last summer. Another family gathering at my mother's house. This was the traditional pre-beach trip dinner, where Catherine would hand out brand new, colorful beach towels to Pamela's children and meticulously discuss the menu for their 2-week stay. I sat there quietly at the dining table, helping little Tyler cut his chicken, while Pamela scrolled through her phone, occasionally showing my mother pictures of swimsuits she was considering packing. The casual cruelty of it all was suffocating. Miranda, could you pass the salt? Thomas asked, barely glancing up from his plate. As I reached across the table, Pamela finally looked up. Oh, what are you and the kids doing this summer, Miranda? Any special plans? The words themselves sounded innocent, almost kind. But that slight, knowing smirk that followed? That told me everything. We're exploring local options. I replied, my voice steady, betraying none of the hurt bubbling inside. There's a new water park opening next month that the kids are excited about. That sounds nice, Pamela said, drawing out the last word like a cruel, drawn-out joke. Though it's not quite the same as feeling the ocean breeze, is it? Maybe if you had a real job, you could afford your own vacation instead of waiting for handouts. The table fell silent. A thick, suffocating silence. My mother cleared her throat, but didn't say a single word in my defense. Thomas chuckled softly. The heat rushed to my cheeks, a blush of shame and fury. Worst of all, I saw Lily at the kids' table, her head bowed, pretending she hadn't heard, but I knew she had. The water park will be fun, I said simply, forcing myself to change the subject, asking about Jacob's baseball team. That night, back in our modest, 3-bedroom ranch house, Lily came to me. I was folding laundry in the living room, trying to push away the humiliation of the evening. Mom, she asked, her voice tiny, fragile. Why don't we ever go to the beach house with Grandma and everyone? I patted the space next to me on the couch, and she climbed up, leaning against my side. Well, sweetheart, sometimes families make different plans for different people. Grandma's beach house is pretty full with Aunt Pamela's family, but Emily said there's a big room upstairs with 4 beds that nobody uses except for their suitcases. I swallowed hard, a lump forming in my throat. Is that so? And then, the second, even more devastating question. And Aunt Pamela said, you can't afford a vacation. Is that true? Are we poor, Mom? Her innocent questions felt like daggers plunging straight into my heart. I turned to face my daughter, taking her small hands in mine, trying to compose myself. No, honey. We're not poor. We have everything we need. I have a good job that lets me be home when you get back from school. We have our house, food on the table, and each other. That makes us very rich in the ways that matter. Just then, Owen appeared in the doorway, clutching his favorite stuffed dinosaur. Can we have our own adventure? He asked, his voice full of hope. Just us? Without Grandma and Aunt Pamela? That was it. That was the moment. That's a wonderful idea, I said, opening my arms, and he joined our couch huddle. What kind of adventure should we plan? As they excitedly discussed everything from backyard camping to Disney World, a silent, unbreakable promise formed in my mind. This pattern. This cycle of exclusion, of feeling less than, it had gone on long enough. Something had to change. And since I couldn't count on my mother or sister to ever change, it would have to be me. That very night, after the children were finally asleep, I sat at my small home office desk and opened my laptop. Instead of catching up on client emails, I started researching coastal property investments. I'd always been careful with my real estate business, building it slowly, steadily. I had a solid reputation, a growing portfolio of rental properties. But what if I took a bigger risk? Over the next few weeks, I lived on adrenaline and coffee, staying up late every night, meticulously crafting a business plan. I reached out to every potential investor and partner I'd met. I devoured market trends and vacation destinations. And then I found it. A promising lead. A small, underperforming resort property, nestled about 2 hours from the very beach where my mother rented her summer house. The property, I could see, had immense potential. But it would require a significant, terrifying investment. I'd have to liquidate some of my existing assets, take out a larger loan than I'd ever even dreamed of before. The numbers made my head spin, made me dizzy with both fear and possibility. But they worked. On paper, at least. This could be more than just an emotional response to years of exclusion. This could be a smart business move. With trembling hands, I made the first call to my bank to discuss financing options. Hanging up the phone, I felt a strange, potent mix of sheer terror and exhilarating possibility. What had started as a late-night fantasy, a desperate hope, was suddenly taking shape as a very real, very tangible future. The next year was the most challenging, the most transformative, of my entire career. By day, I was still managing my existing properties, serving my real estate clients. By night, I dove headfirst into the complex world of commercial real estate and resort management. I closed 3 major deals that spring, including a small apartment complex that netted me enough commission to pay off my car and set aside a significant sum toward my growing resort fund. My reputation in the local real estate community was solidifying. I was asked to speak at regional investment seminars twice, and a local business magazine even included me in their Women to Watch in Business feature. None of this, of course, impressed my family. To them, I was still just Miranda. She sells houses. In April, a serendipitous encounter changed everything. I met Barbara Thornton, a force of nature, a legendary developer who had transformed countless failing hotels into thriving boutique destinations. After my presentation at a real estate investment forum, she approached me, handed me a business card, and invited me for coffee. "You've got good instincts," she told me over espresso the following week. "But you're playing it too safe. What's your big vision?" I hesitated for a moment, then pulled out my folder, overflowing with research on that coastal resort property. Barbara studied my numbers, her eyes sharp, asking pointed, insightful questions about my financing plan, renovation budget, marketing strategy. After an hour of intense grilling, she leaned back, a small smile playing on her lips. "You might be onto something here," she said. "If you're serious about this, I'd like to mentor you through the process." What followed were 60, sometimes 70-hour work weeks. I balanced my existing business, the dizzying resort acquisition process, and the relentless demands of single motherhood. I hired a reliable after-school sitter for Lily and Owen, scheduled client meetings during school hours whenever possible. I became a master of multitasking, reviewing property inspection reports while watching Owen's soccer games, negotiating with contractors by phone during Lily's dance recital intermissions. The kids noticed the change. One night, Lily found me asleep at the kitchen table, my face pressed against a spreadsheet, a half-empty coffee mug beside me. "Mom," she said, gently shaking my shoulder, "you should go to bed." I lifted my head, disoriented, my brain still buzzing with numbers. "What time is it?" "Almost midnight. You said you were just checking one email after dinner, but that was 4 hours ago." I rubbed my eyes, feeling a pang of guilt. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. This project at work is really important." Her voice, so small, so vulnerable, cut me to the core. "More important than us?" The question jolted me fully awake. "No, never more important than you and Owen," I insisted, pulling her into a tight hug. "You two are the reason I'm working so hard. I promise it will all make sense soon." November brought our usual family Thanksgiving at my mother's house. Pamela and Thomas rolled up in a brand new luxury SUV, their children spilling out, tablets and gaming devices in hand. My mother immediately fussed over them, exclaiming about how much they'd grown, how smart they looked. My greeting? "Miranda, you're late," even though we had arrived precisely at the time stated on the invitation. Dinner was the usual performance. My mother served Pamela first, then Thomas, then each of their children in age order, before finally, offering food to my children and me. The conversation, naturally, revolved around Pamela's recent kitchen renovation and Thomas's big promotion at the hospital. After dinner, as we moved to the living room for dessert, my mother brought out her photo album from the summer beach trip. "Look at these beautiful sunset pictures," she cooed, showing them to the gathered relatives. "And here's Emily on her new paddleboard. Thomas bought one for each of the children." Owen, ever hopeful, tried to peek at the album. "Can I see, Grandma?" "In a minute, dear," she replied, completely dismissing him, continuing to turn pages. "Oh, and here's the seafood feast we had for Thomas's birthday. The restaurant brought it right to the beach house. Such service." I watched my children's faces, their innocent curiosity turning to quiet disappointment, as they absorbed, once again, all the experiences they had missed. Jacob, Pamela's middle son, unknowingly twisted the knife further. "Lily, you should have seen the dolphins. They swam right up to where we were building sand castles. Mom said it was a once-in-a-lifetime thing." Lily nodded politely, a brave little soldier, but I could see the fresh hurt in her eyes. Later, as Thomas monopolized the conversation with excruciating details about the boat he had rented for a day during their beach stay, I found myself reflecting on my own childhood. I had always been the responsible one, working part-time jobs since high school to pay for my own clothes, my own school activities. Pamela? She got a brand new car for her 16th birthday. I took the bus to my after-school job at the mall, saving every penny for my own beat-up used car. My mother had always criticized my choices. "Why not somewhere more prestigious?" She'd asked about my college. My career path? Real estate? Is that stable enough? And later my choice of husband. Richard seems nice, but does he have ambition? When my marriage inevitably fell apart, there was no sympathy, just a knowing. I told you so. Look, and occasional reminders that Pamela and Thomas were celebrating another anniversary. As I drove home that night, Lily and Owen quiet in the back seat, already lost in their own worlds, I finally truly understood. The pattern of emotional neglect that had subtly, insidiously shaped my childhood was now, undeniably, affecting my children. They were experiencing the same gut-wrenching sense of being less than, the same crushing exclusion, the same subtle, corrosive message that they weren't quite as important as their cousins. I gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. The resort acquisition wasn't just about proving my worth anymore. It was about breaking a generational pattern. It was about showing my children, explicitly and unequivocally, that they deserved better. The coastal property I had been researching was called Seaside Haven Resort. And believe me, it had seen better days. Built in the 1980s as a mid-range family destination, it had cycled through several owners who had, let's just say, neglected necessary updates. The current owner, a retirement-age man named Gerald Wilson, had inherited it from his brother and had absolutely zero interest in the hospitality business. When I first visited the property in January, it was glaringly obvious why occupancy rates had plummeted. The 24 units were clean, yes, but aggressively dated. Faded floral bedspreads, laminate furniture that screamed last century. The small restaurant was closed for the season, and a peek through the windows revealed dusty tables and an ancient cash register that looked like it belonged in a museum. But the location? Oh, the location was unbeatable. Situated on 3 acres with 200 feet of private beachfront. Panoramic ocean views, a protected cove perfect for swimming. A beautiful wooden boardwalk leading from the main building straight to the beach, passing a neglected but completely salvageable pool area. And most importantly, it was just a 10-minute drive from the upscale beach house my mother rented each summer. The irony was not lost on me. I spent 2 intense weeks conducting due diligence, hiring inspectors to check every single building structure, poring over financial records, assessing renovation costs down to the last nail. The news wasn't all good, of course. The roof needed replacing, the electrical system was ancient, the septic system was nearing the end of its life. But the bones were solid, and the zoning allowed for expansion. With Barbara's expert guidance, I assembled a dream team of potential investors and prepared a comprehensive presentation. My vision? To transform this tired old resort into a boutique destination for families and couples seeking a personalized, unforgettable beach experience. The current asking price is $2 million, I explained to the group gathered in Barbara's sleek conference room. Based on our inspections, we're estimating another $1.5 million for renovations and updates. Our market analysis shows we could triple the current revenue within 3 years with proper management and targeted marketing. The questions came fast and furious, tough but fair. How would we handle staffing in a seasonal location? What was our contingency plan for severe weather events? How would we differentiate from the larger chain hotels in the area? I had done my homework. I had answers ready for every single one. By the end of that meeting, I had secured commitments for 40% of the needed capital. With my own substantial investment and a solid commercial loan, we could finally move forward. The negotiation with Gerald took less time than expected. He accepted our offer of $1,850,000, clearly eager to be free of what he dismissively called my brother's folly. On a cold March morning, I sat at a closing table, signing more paperwork than I had for all my previous property acquisitions combined. "Congratulations," said the attorney, sliding the final document across for my signature. "You're now the proud owner of Seaside Haven Resort." As I drove home from the closing, I was utterly overwhelmed by conflicting emotions. I had just made the biggest financial commitment of my life. If this failed, I could lose everything I had worked for, everything I had fought for. And yet, beneath the terror, there was a profound sense of power I had never experienced before. For the very first time, I had taken a risk entirely on my own terms, without seeking anyone's approval. I hadn't told my family about the resort. Part of me, a small, vindictive part, wanted to call my mother immediately, to finally force her to acknowledge my success, to see me, truly see me. A larger, wiser part wanted to wait, to reveal it at the perfect moment, when the renovation was complete, when the resort was something I could truly be proud of. But the strongest impulse, the one that burned brightest, was to tell my children. They had watched me work tirelessly for months, had sacrificed weekend outings and evening story times. They deserved to know why. That night, I picked up Lily and Owen from their after-school program, a mysterious smile playing on my lips. "I have a surprise," I told them. "We're going on a little road trip this weekend." "Where to?" Lily asked, instantly suspicious of my overly cheerful tone. "It's a secret," I whispered conspiratorially. "But I promise it will be worth the drive." The Christmas gathering at my mother's house that year followed the usual, infuriating script. Catherine, beaming, announced the dates for next summer's beach house rental, passing out little "save the date" cards to Pamela's family, adorned with cartoon seashells. "I've already put down the deposit," she said proudly. "Thomas, I made sure to book the weeks that work with your hospital schedule." I noticed, with a familiar pang, that no cards were prepared for my children or me. These will be going out to the rest of the family next week. My mother continued, gesturing vaguely. But I wanted to give them to you in person. As if on cue, Thomas made a grand show of retrieving packages from their car. And speaking of gifts, he announced, with an air of self-importance, we brought a little something for everyone. Pamela's children received expensive electronic gadgets, their faces lighting up with delight. My mother received a designer scarf that I knew, with a sinking feeling, cost more than my monthly car payment. My children? Lily and Owen each received generic gift cards to a chain store, with Thomas explaining, we weren't sure what you liked. My gift was a scented candle, the kind sold in discount bins near checkout counters. Thank you, I said politely, wondering if they knew or cared that I was severely allergic to artificial fragrances. Later, as the adults had coffee and the children played in the basement, Lily, bless her brave little heart, approached my mother. Grandma, will we get to come to the beach house next summer? She asked directly, catching everyone off guard. My mother patted her head absently, dismissing her with a wave. Oh well, we'll have to see about space, dear. Maybe next year. It was the same hollow answer she gave every single year. I caught Pamela's smug look, Thomas's dismissive shrug. They knew, as did I, that maybe next year meant a resounding no. That night, though, I held on to the secret knowledge of my resort purchase like a powerful, protective shield against their indifference, their casual cruelty. In 6 months, I would have a very different answer to my daughter's heartbreaking question. The renovation of Seaside Haven Resort became the singular, consuming focus of our lives that winter and spring. I hired a local contractor with proven experience in hospitality projects, and a brilliant designer who specialized in coastal aesthetics. Together, we meticulously crafted a plan to transform the dated property into a welcoming, luxurious retreat that perfectly balanced high-end comfort with family-friendly amenities. In February, during a school holiday, I finally brought Lily and Owen to see the property. I had prepared them with stories about a special project, but hadn't revealed the full, astonishing scope of what I had purchased. Is this it? Lily asked, her voice laced with disappointment, as we pulled into the cracked asphalt parking lot. The main building's faded sign hung slightly crooked, peeling paint visible even from a distance. It doesn't look very special, Owen added, his little face pressed against the car window. It doesn't look special yet, I corrected him, turning off the engine, a fierce determination in my voice. But it will. Come on, let me show you something. I led them past the reception area with its outdated wood paneling and dusty fake plants, through a side door, and onto the beautiful wooden boardwalk that led straight to the beach. The February wind whipped at our jackets, but the view? Oh, the view was absolutely spectacular. Waves crashed against the shore, gulls circled overhead against the brilliant, endless blue sky. This, I said, gesturing to the breathtaking expanse of ocean before us, my voice filled with a tremor of emotion, is what makes this place special. And guess what? It belongs to us now. The ocean? Owen asked, his eyes wide, disbelieving. I laughed, a real, joyful laugh. No, silly. Not the whole ocean. But this resort, with this private beach access? I bought it. We own it. Lily's mouth dropped open. You bought a hotel? A resort. I corrected her gently, my heart swelling with pride. And yes, I did. This is what I've been working on all these months. We're going to fix it up and make it beautiful. And then next summer, we'll spend the whole season right here. Right next to Grandma's beach house? Owen asked, his voice barely a whisper. 10 minutes away, I confirmed. Close enough to visit if we want to, but we'll have our own place, on our own beach. The children were silent for a moment, truly taking it all in. Then Lily turned to me, her expression serious, brimming with a newfound ownership. Can we help decide what it looks like, the rooms and stuff? Absolutely, I assured her. In fact, there's one suite I was hoping you two would help me design specifically. It's going to be called the Family Suite, and it will be the best room in the whole resort. Their excitement was immediate, electric, and utterly contagious. For the next hour, we walked the property, me pointing out where improvements would be made, them bubbling with ideas. Owen wanted a bigger pool with a slide. Lily suggested a library corner in the lobby with books for guests to borrow. They both agreed the restaurant absolutely needed an ice cream bar. I took notes of their ideas, many of which, surprisingly, were incredibly practical. By the time we headed home, they were fully invested in the project, already making plans for which friends they would invite to visit during the summer. The renovation process, as you can imagine, was not without its challenges. A routine inspection revealed asbestos in the ceiling tiles of the restaurant, requiring specialized removal that ate into our contingency budget. A late March storm damaged part of the boardwalk, setting our exterior work back by weeks. And finding qualified staff willing to commit to a property that wasn't yet operational proved harder than expected. But for every setback, there were moments of exhilarating progress that kept me motivated. The day the new resort sign was installed, with its elegant driftwood-inspired logo. The afternoon I walked through the first completely renovated guest room, with its custom-built furniture and subtle coastal color palette, feeling like I'd stepped into a dream. The morning the landscapers finished planting native grasses and vibrant flowers along the winding paths. Each small victory was a shot of pure adrenaline. Barbara, my incredible mentor, visited regularly, offering invaluable advice and connecting me with crucial industry contacts. She even brought potential corporate clients to tour the property, even in its unfinished state, helping me secure advance bookings for business retreats in the fall and winter months. "You're doing it," she told me during one visit, as we stood on the newly rebuilt deck, overlooking the endless ocean. "And not just a physical renovation. You're reinventing yourself as a business owner, not just an agent or investor." Her words struck a chord, resonated deep within me. I had been so intensely focused on the practical aspects of the project that I hadn't fully acknowledged my own profound transformation. I was finding my voice after years of staying quiet, of being silenced. I was setting firm boundaries with contractors and vendors when work didn't meet my exacting standards. I was making decisions without seeking approval or validation from anyone else. Most importantly, I was showing my children, in real time, what resilience looked like in action. They saw me problem solve when deliveries were delayed or budgets needed adjusting. They watched me stand firm when the building inspector tried to rush through his review. They witnessed me navigate the complex world of business loans and insurance policies with growing, undeniable confidence. As spring progressed, word about the resort renovation spread like wildfire through the local business community. The regional business journal ran a glowing feature about the project, highlighting my background and bold vision for the property. Former colleagues and clients reached out, their voices filled with genuine congratulations, some even expressing interest in booking future stays. I hadn't sought publicity, preferring to focus on completing the work before making any grand announcements. But when that article was published, complete with stunning renderings of the planned final design, my phone simply didn't stop ringing with inquiries from potential guests. One of those calls came from my cousin Nathan, my mother's nephew. "Miranda," he said, his voice brimming with genuine admiration, "I just saw the article about your resort project. Is that really you?" I confirmed that it was, giving him a brief, understated overview of the renovation timeline. "That's incredible," he marveled. "Does Aunt Catherine know about this?" "Not yet," I admitted, a slight smirk of my own forming. "I've been waiting for the right time to tell the family." There was a pause. "Well, I think it's fantastic. Pamela sent out an email about the annual beach trip, but honestly, your place looks a lot nicer than the house they usually rent. When do you open for reservations?" That conversation planted a powerful seed in my mind. Nathan wasn't the only extended family member who might prefer a free stay at a newly renovated, luxurious resort to the crowded, often tense arrangements at my mother's rental house. Perhaps it was time to consider, very carefully, how I wanted to handle the inevitable family reaction when my project became public knowledge. As April turned to May, and the resort transformation neared its glorious completion, a profound realization washed over me. I no longer cared about proving anything to my mother or sister. The resort wasn't about them anymore. It was about creating something meaningful, something beautiful, for my children and for myself. It was about building a future based entirely on my own efforts, my own vision, not on seeking approval that would, quite frankly, likely never come. With that powerful realization came a surprising, liberating sense of freedom. For the very first time in my adult life, I felt completely at peace with my choices. Absolutely, utterly at peace, regardless of what my family might think of them. With the resort's soft opening scheduled for mid-June, I began planning how to make the grand announcement to my extended family. After careful consideration, I decided to host a family reunion weekend in early July, when Seaside Haven would be fully operational, gleaming, and perfect, but before the peak tourist season officially began. I designed elegant invitations on thick cream cardstock, each featuring a watercolor painting of the resort's beachfront at sunset. Each invitation was personalized with the family member's name, and included specific, lavish details about the all-expenses-paid weekend I was offering. Transportation, accommodation in our premium suites, gourmet meals at the restaurant, and access to all resort activities would be completely, unequivocally free for my cherished guests. I sent invitations to all my aunts, uncles, and cousins on both sides of the family. I included my father's brother, Robert, and his wife, Susan, who had always been incredibly kind to me but rarely attended my mother's beach gatherings due to an old, festering disagreement. I invited my mother's sister, Margaret, and her husband, John, who lived across the country and usually claimed the trip was too expensive. I sent invitations to all my cousins, including those with young children, promising child-friendly accommodations and endless activities. And then I did it. I did not send invitations to my mother or to Pamela's family. The decision wasn't made lightly, believe me. I discussed it with Lily and Owen, explaining that this first family gathering at our resort would be special because it included people who hadn't been able to participate in the beach house vacations before. "But what about Grandma?" Owen asked, his little brow furrowed. "Won't she be sad if we don't invite her? Grandma has her own beach plans," I explained gently. "Remember how she already put down a deposit for her house? She'll be nearby with Aunt Pamela's family, just like every summer. Will she be mad when she finds out about our resort?" Lily asked, always perceptive, always picking up on the subtle currents of family dynamics. "She might be surprised," I acknowledged. "And sometimes when grown-ups are surprised, they act upset at first. But this is our special place, and we get to decide when we're ready to share it. I braced them for possible family drama, emphasizing that no matter what happened with the adults, their cousins weren't responsible for their parents' behavior. The responses to my invitations came quickly, a flood of overwhelmingly positive replies. My Uncle Robert called me directly, his voice thick with emotion. "Miranda, I can't believe what you've accomplished," he said, his words a balm to my long-aching soul. "Your father would have been so proud of you." Aunt Margaret sent a heartfelt, handwritten note along with her RSVP. "We've missed so many family gatherings because of distance and cost. Thank you for making it possible for us to reconnect with everyone. John and I are looking forward to finally meeting your children." Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years reached out with enthusiastic acceptances and eager questions about the resort amenities. Several mentioned, almost casually, that they had often felt excluded from the beach house gatherings themselves due to space limitations or unspoken conflicts with my mother. "Is Catherine hosting her usual beach week?" my cousin Nicole asked when she called to confirm her attendance. "Will she be joining us at the resort?" "Mom has her traditional rental house," I explained, keeping my tone perfectly neutral. "This is a separate event." "Interesting," Nicole replied. I could practically hear the gears turning in her mind, the curiosity simmering, but she didn't press further. As the RSVPs accumulated, I realized that nearly 30 family members had accepted my invitation. Many expressed genuine surprise and sincere admiration at what I had accomplished, having heard little to nothing about my career progress over the years. And then, as expected, it happened. It took less than a week for word to reach my mother and Pamela. The call came on a Tuesday evening, as I was reviewing the final delivery schedule for the resort's gleaming new restaurant equipment. "Miranda, it's Pamela." My sister's voice sliced through the speaker, tight with barely controlled fury, simmering just beneath the surface. "What's this I hear about you buying a resort and hosting some kind of family reunion?" I took a deep, steadying breath, reminding myself to stay calm, to stay focused. "Hello, Pamela. Yes, I've purchased and renovated a property called Seaside Haven Resort. We're hosting a gathering for extended family in early July. And you didn't think to invite your own mother and sister?" she practically shrieked. "Emily just heard from Nicole's daughter that they're all going to stay at some fancy place you bought. Do you have any idea how that made her feel? The kids are crying, Miranda. They think you hate them." The emotional manipulation was so transparent, so utterly predictable, it almost made me laugh. Pamela had never, not once, cared about my children's feelings when they were excluded, year after year after year. "I'm sorry the children are upset," I said, my voice even unshakable. "This particular weekend is for family members who haven't had the opportunity to join the beach house vacations in the past. As Mom has already arranged her usual rental, I assumed you would be continuing with those plans." "That's the most ridiculous excuse I've ever heard," Pamela snapped, her voice rising. "You're deliberately excluding us out of spite. Mom is devastated." I doubted that. My mother was more likely livid, enraged, than truly hurt. But Pamela had always been her chosen messenger when difficult conversations, or rather, accusations, were needed. "The resort will be open all summer," I continued, ignoring her theatrics. "You're welcome to book a stay as regular guests at another time." "Book a stay?" she sputtered, incredulous. "You expect us to pay to visit your little motel when we've been inviting you to the beach house for years?" I almost corrected her on both points. Seaside Haven was hardly a little motel, and they had most certainly not been inviting me to the beach house. But I bit my tongue, knowing it was useless. "Listen carefully, Pamela," I said instead, my voice firm, controlled, a steel edge beneath the calm. "For 15 years I've watched you and Mom pack up for beach vacations while telling me and my children there wasn't enough room for us. I've listened to your cutting comments about my career, my parenting, my life choices. I've smiled and stayed quiet when you belittled me in front of my own children. Not anymore." There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. "I built this resort through hard work and smart investments," I continued, the words flowing with an unstoppable momentum. "It's a business I'm proud of, and it's also a fresh start for me and my children. The family members I've invited are people who have shown us kindness and inclusion, even from a distance. When you're ready to do the same, we can talk about future gatherings." "So that's it?" Pamela's voice had shifted, now laced with genuine tears. "You're just cutting us out of your life after everything Mom has done for you? She's not getting any younger, Miranda. Do you really want the kids to grow up not knowing their grandmother and cousins?" It was the same old emotional leverage she had always used, the same guilt trip, designed to keep me in line, to make me doubt myself. This time, it didn't work. Not even a little. "My children see their grandmother at Christmas and Thanksgiving," I stated, my resolve unwavering. "And they're welcome to continue those visits. As for their cousins, they would love to build closer relationships with them when it's not predicated on us being treated as second-class family members." Pamela was openly crying now, a torrent of self-pity and performative hurt. "You can't do this. It's not fair to the children. They've been looking forward to seeing you at the beach all year." "Have they?" I asked quietly, letting the question hang in the air. "Because my children have been looking forward to it for 15 years, Pamela. And every single year, they've been disappointed. So, forgive me if I find it hard to believe your children have been eagerly anticipating seeing cousins they barely acknowledge at family gatherings. What do you want me to say? She demanded, her voice cracking. That we were wrong? Fine. We were wrong. We should have made more effort to include you. Is that what you need to hear? What I need, I replied steadily, my voice firm but without anger, is for you to understand that this isn't about getting an apology or an admission of guilt. This is about me finally prioritizing my children's happiness and my own well-being. For once, I'm not asking for your approval or inclusion. I'm creating my own space where we feel valued and welcome. There was a long, chilling silence. When Pamela spoke again, her voice was cold, devoid of the earlier tears, replaced by a cutting bitterness. Mom was right about you. You've always been selfish. Always had to make everything about you. Well, congratulations on your little revenge project. I hope it was worth destroying the family over. Before I could respond, she hung up. I sat there for a moment, letting the accusation settle, letting the silence of the room envelop me. Was I being selfish? Was this whole project really about revenge? I closed my eyes, picturing the pure joy on my children's faces when they helped design the family suite. I remembered the surge of pride I felt watching the construction progress each week. I considered the genuine excitement and heartfelt gratitude from extended family members who had felt as excluded as we had over the years. No. This wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about growth. About creating new traditions. About showing my children, explicitly, undeniably, that they deserve to be prioritized, to be celebrated. And if Pamela and my mother couldn't see that, couldn't understand that, then truly, it was their loss, not mine. The family reunion weekend at Seaside Haven Resort exceeded every single one of my wildest expectations. As guests arrived on Friday afternoon, the newly trained staff welcomed them with signature cocktails for the adults and special, colorful mocktails for the children. The weather cooperated beautifully, as if on cue, with clear skies and a gentle ocean breeze that carried the sweet scent of salt water and the jasmine we had planted along the winding walkways. Lily and Owen appointed themselves unofficial tour guides, proudly showing their cousins and second cousins around their resort. They knew every corner of the property, from the best spot to watch dolphins in the morning to the secret path through the dunes that led to a hidden tide pool. My mom designed this whole place. I overheard Lily telling her cousin Nicole's daughter, Madison. She worked really hard and now it's the prettiest resort on the whole beach. The family suite, which the children had helped design with such infectious enthusiasm, became the unofficial gathering spot for the younger generation, with its cozy bunk room for the kids, a separate, serene bedroom for parents, and an expansive living area opening onto a private deck overlooking the ocean. It was perfect for family movie nights and boisterous board game tournaments. Uncle Robert, who had been something of a surrogate father to me after my dad died, raised a heartfelt toast at our first dinner in the resort's elegant restaurant. To Miranda, he said, his glass held high, his weathered face reflecting the warm glow of the candlelight. Who reminds us that success is the best revenge, but family is the best reward. The entire weekend was a blur of joy and connection, filled with activities from guided nature walks along the shore to a magical bonfire with s'mores on Saturday night. I had even arranged for a professional photographer to capture family groups, providing everyone with beautiful framed photos as timeless mementos. Most meaningful to me, though, were the quiet, intimate conversations with relatives I had rarely seen over the years. Aunt Margaret shared stories about my father's childhood that I had never heard. Cousins who had built successful careers in other cities offered invaluable business connections and advice for expanding the resort concept. Even distant relatives who had been on the periphery of family gatherings expressed genuine interest in my journey and my children's lives. It was everything I had dreamed of, and more. On Sunday morning, as I was having coffee on the main deck, soaking in the serene ocean view, the resort manager approached me. Miss Wallace, there's a woman at reception insisting on speaking with you. She says she's your mother. She doesn't have a reservation, and she seems quite upset. I had been expecting this moment, of course, though I thought it might come later in the summer, during my mother's own beach house rental. Taking a deep, fortifying breath, I thanked him and made my way to the lobby. Catherine stood at the reception desk, her posture rigid, her expression a mixture of anger and utter disbelief. She was dressed for church in a floral dress and pearls, clearly having come directly from her Sunday service. Miranda, she said when she saw me, her voice carrying sharply across the open space, laced with outrage. What is the meaning of this spectacle? I gestured toward a small seating area away from the front desk. Let's talk privately, Mom. Reluctantly, stiffly, she followed me to the arranged chairs, perching on the very edge of one, as if afraid to get too comfortable. How could you do this? She demanded, her voice barely a whisper, yet vibrating with fury once we were seated. Buying a property practically next door to our beach house and inviting the entire family except your own mother and sister? Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? I looked at her carefully, truly seeing her, perhaps for the first time in years. Beyond the carefully applied makeup and designer outfit, I noticed the subtle signs of age I hadn't registered before. New, fine lines around her eyes, her hands clutching her purse, showing prominent veins and age spots. That wasn't my intention, I said truthfully, calmly. This resort is a business investment and a new chapter for me and my children. The family gathering this weekend includes people who haven't been able to participate in the beach house vacations for various reasons. Don't pretend this isn't about punishing me, she snapped, her eyes narrowing. Robert called to tell me what a wonderful time everyone is having at your resort. He mentioned how proud your father would be of your independence and business acumen. Her voice turned bitter, laced with a familiar self-pity. As if I hadn't been the one encouraging your independence all these years. I almost laughed at the sheer audacity of her revisionist history. Is that what you call it, Mom? Encouraging independence? Because from my perspective, it looked a lot like being excluded and dismissed. I always treated you and Pamela exactly the same, she insisted, her voice rising. No, Mom, you didn't. And we both know it. But that's not why I'm here today, running this resort. I'm here because I saw an opportunity and I took it. I'm here because I wanted to create something special for my children. I'm here because I finally stopped waiting for your approval and decided to live my life on my own terms. She was silent for a moment, her eyes scanning the lobby with its tasteful coastal decor, the large windows showcasing the sparkling ocean view. It's nice, she admitted reluctantly, a grudging concession. I had no idea you were capable of something like this. Why didn't you tell me what you were planning? Would you have been supportive? I asked, my gaze steady, unwavering. Or would you have told me it was too risky, too ambitious, too much for a single mother to take on? She didn't answer. Her silence was answer enough. I'd like to see the rest of it, she said instead. So I gave her the abbreviated tour, showing her the restaurant, the pool area, one of the standard guest rooms. She made occasional, almost clinical comments about the decor or asked practical questions about staffing and maintenance. It was the longest civil conversation we had had in years. As we walked along the boardwalk toward the beach, she finally addressed the elephant in the room. Pamela is very upset, you know. The children were counting on seeing Lily and Owen this summer. They're welcome to visit, I said, my voice calm but firm. But as guests. Not as people doing us a favor by allowing us into their vacation. That's not fair, Miranda, she protested, a flicker of genuine distress in her eyes. We never meant to make you feel that way. I stopped walking and turned to face her, looking directly into her eyes. Intention doesn't change impact, Mom. Whether you meant to or not, that's exactly how you made us feel, year after year. She looked away, watching a pair of seagulls circling over the glittering water. I suppose we could visit for a day, she said finally, her voice soft, almost hesitant. During our beach house stay, to let the cousins play together. It wasn't an apology, not really, but it was something. A small, almost imperceptible acknowledgement that things needed to change. I think that would be nice, I replied, a genuine smile touching my lips. The kids would enjoy that. As I walked her back to the parking lot, she made one final, characteristic attempt to regain the upper hand. You know, your independence has always been your strongest quality. I raised you to stand on your own 2 feet, and look at what you've accomplished because of it. In a way, this resort is a testament to my parenting. I could have argued. I could have pointed out the absolute absurdity of her taking credit for the very resilience I had developed despite, not because of, her parenting. But what would be the point? Goodbye, Mom, I said simply. Enjoy your beach vacation. That evening, as the extended family gathered for a joyful farewell dinner before departing the next morning, I found myself walking on the beach, watching the sunset paint the sky in impossible shades of pink and orange. Lily and Owen were playing in the shallow waves with their cousins, their unrestrained laughter carrying on the evening breeze, a sound more beautiful than any music. Uncle Robert joined me, his kind, weathered face reflecting the golden light. You've created something special here, he said, gesturing not just to the beautifully lit resort behind us, but to the scene unfolding before us, the happy children, the connected family. And I don't just mean the buildings and the business. I nodded, a profound understanding settling in my heart. Beyond the physical transformation of the property, I had created a new kind of family connection, one built on mutual respect and genuine affection, rather than obligation or hollow tradition. I saw Catherine leaving earlier, he continued gently. How did that go? About as well as could be expected, I replied, a small smile playing on my lips. She's not ready to admit any wrongdoing, but she's willing to arrange a day visit during their beach stay. Robert chuckled, a warm, knowing sound. Baby steps, Miranda. That's more flexibility than I've seen from my sister in decades. As the sun finally dipped below the horizon, bathing the sky in a final, fiery farewell, I felt a profound, deep sense of peace. The journey that had begun with such searing hurt and crushing exclusion had led to something far, far more valuable than revenge or mere validation. It had led to self-discovery, to finding my own powerful voice, to creating a legacy for my children built on strength and self-worth, rather than victimhood or a desperate yearning for acceptance. Lily ran up from the water's edge, her hair wet and sandy, her smile radiant, her eyes sparkling. Mom, can we do this every summer? Can all the cousins come back next year, too? I pulled her into a hug, sand and all, my heart overflowing. If that's what you want, sweetie. This place is ours, and we get to decide who shares it with us. And that, I realized, was the most important lesson of all. Not that success is the best revenge, though sometimes it feels that way, but that creating your own space, literally and figuratively, is the truest, most liberating form of freedom. 1 year later, the dynamics of our family had shifted in ways I never, ever could have predicted. Seaside Haven Resort had completed its first full season with nearly 90% occupancy, exceeding our financial projections. The family suite, the one Lily and Owen helped design, had been booked solid from June through August, often by relatives who had discovered the joy of beach vacations without the underlying tension of my mother's rigid orchestration. Pamela and I had even established a cautious truce, mostly for the sake of the children. Her oldest daughter, Emily, had actually asked to work at the resort for 2 weeks in July, earning her own spending money by helping with children's activities. The experience of having a real job and earning her own money had been genuinely transformative for her, opening her eyes to a world far beyond her parents' comfortable financial umbrella. My mother had visited 3 times during her beach house stay, each visit a little longer, a little less strained than the last. She would never fully, explicitly acknowledge the years of blatant favoritism and painful exclusion, but she had begun to treat my children with more attention and genuine interest, perhaps seeing them through new eyes, now that others so clearly valued our company. Most importantly, I had found balance. The resort ran smoothly under the capable management team I had assembled, allowing me to focus on future investments while still having ample time for Lily and Owen. We had created our own traditions, our own special memories, our own rich, meaningful sense of what family truly meant. As I watched the children racing along the shoreline, building magnificent sandcastles, and collecting iridescent shells, I thought about how a space that had once been denied to us, that had caused so much pain, had ultimately led us to create something even better. Not just a resort, but a new way of being family, on our own terms. And that, my friends, was worth more than any invitation I could have been given. What would you have said if you were in my position? Have you ever had to create your own space after being excluded? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about family dynamics and personal growth. And don't forget to share this with someone who might need a powerful reminder that sometimes the best response to exclusion is creating something even better, entirely on your own terms. Thank you for joining me today, and remember, you deserve a place where you feel truly valued and absolutely welcome.